Start with a flea flicker to open up the night. And he connects with Galladay.
Sup, everyone. Welcome to this week's Flea Flicker with Joey D and Timmy B. This is our Week 16 recap. Hopefully, everybody won their fantasy matchups or at least didn't lose the toilet bowl if you didn't make the fantasy championship. Hope your actual team won and made the playoff push or lost and helped your draft position. But welcome to our Week 16 recap. Joey D, how are you doing today, man?
Oh, we're doing, Tim. Got back from up north in the goddamn cold of Maryland, and came back with a beard. I needed to keep myself warm while I was up there, but unfortunately, did not come back with a fantasy championship or an Eagles playoff berth. It was a rough football weekend, so now I've talked myself into the good draft pick time. Let's go. So it's officially draft season.
It is officially draft season for the Eagles, and we'll get into who is on the clock at number one a little bit later. But I actually won the one fantasy championship I was in, Joe, because I had one Alvin Kamara on my team, and the Saints win on Christmas 52-33. Actually won by 100 points, so I didn't need Kamara after all, but his 57 points certainly helped me out. He tied the record for 6 rushing touchdowns, could have had a 7th, but Taysom Hill came in and vultured there, but luckily the Saints offense was able to move down the football. But this was a fun game to watch, not only for Kamara, but the Saints looked good. And on the other side, the Vikings were scoring and putting up points. So that is a little bit of a concern for the Saints defense. And I mentioned that in the preview. So the Saints defense has, not been as good as they were kind of in the middle of the season. And then offensively, that's how the Saints are going to get to the Super Bowl and win the Super Bowl championship, is using Alvin Kamara in the short passing game as well as the rushing game, because Drew Brees, is only a fraction of himself right now. He's getting older, so he can't win games with his arms. But the Saints do escape with a win and still have a position to be the number 1 seed in the NFC. But it looks like they'll be the number 2 or number 3 seed, hosting one of the NFC West teams, or even the Bears week 1. So, Joe, what were your thoughts from this Christmas matchup Friday night between the Saints and the Vikings?
Yeah, I liked what I saw out of the Saints offense. I mean, big storyline. There was no Michael Thomas this game.
Mm-mm.
And, they were still able to, beat them in the ground, which was kind of astounding to me, because everybody knew that, everyone knows Drew Brees is not the same. Michael Thomas isn't there. So this receiving core is not that great. So the game plan going into this would be run the ball, use Alvin Kamara, and, win on the ground. And that's exactly what they did. So I'm, very shocked at Mike Zimmer and, what he's let this defense become. I think after the game, he said that this is the worst defense that he's ever coached. After you let up 52 points and
Right.
6 touchdowns to the same player, like, I get it. But I mean, that's supposed to be, Mike Zimmer's thing. He's a defensive guy. That defense has always been a real strong unit there in Minnesota. And this year they really lost a big part of their identity with that. So, definitely bears concern moving forward. I think that for the Vikings, building that defense back up has to be their priority. And also figuring out if Kirk Cousins is the guy long-term or not. But then on the Saints side, I mean, this is exactly the kind of game that you want to have going into the final stretch. Like you said, that defense, definitely needs to shore things up a little bit. But it never really felt like there was a lot of pressure on them in this game, because the offense and Kamara were scoring points at will. So it'll be interesting to see how they perform if it ends up being a defensive slugfest.
Yeah, it's going to be fun to watch, and I think it'll be fun to watch the Saints in Week 17 too. Not only scoreboard watching, because they could be the number 1 seed, but just seeing how they incorporate Taysom Hill a little bit more, because we've seen the Saints offense struggle with Drew Brees at quarterback. So it'll be interesting to see if they can still maintain a good run game Sunday against the Panthers. And then that creates the play action. And now we're moving to Saturday, Joe. First game of the day, the Bucs win 47-7 against the Lions. The Lions' only touchdown came from a punt return. So shout out that punt returner for doing his job and putting some points on the board. I believe 35 points at halftime for the Buccaneers. Tom Brady, 4 TDs, didn't even play in the second half. And my takeaway or question for you, Joe, is this kind of like, like the Bucs offense is clicking again at the right time, they're going to be scary in the playoffs? Or is this more of they were playing a deadbeat Lions team. They struggled to beat the Falcons last week. They play the Falcons again this week. So what was kind of your takeaway from that? That was mine. It's kind of like, is this the Bucs team we're going to see in the playoffs, or was this because they were playing the Lions?
Yeah, I think it was more because they were playing the Lions. I mean, we knew going into this game, Jeffrey Okuda has been out for a couple weeks. They really don't have a lot of guys in that
Mhm.
secondary. So I liked that matchup for Tom Brady and, all those receivers there in Tampa Bay. And then on the flip side, I think Matt Stafford left the game after like, the second
Mhm.
drive or something like that. So I would hope that a defense that, again, got a lot of hype going into this year and, has a lot of players that should be, making this defense a little bit more of a stronger unit than it has been. This is the kind of game that you should have that, you're based on the matchups with, like I said, about Bucks offense versus all those depleted secondary guys for Detroit. And then, no Matt Stafford, no Kenny
Mhm.
Galladay. I mean, that's a game where this should be the outcome for the Buccaneers. And if it hadn't been, then that's where the concerns would be. Um, I don't think that this is, the Bucks finally finding their groove or
Mhm.
lighting it up and, being a force to be reckoned with or something like that. Like I said, this is a game that they should have won and they should have won like this based on the matchups that, were going into this game and ended up happening with the Stafford injury.
Yeah, for sure. And we'll see because right now the Buccaneers are the 5 seed. As long as they win, and they're pretty much going to be the 5 seed, which means they're at the NFC East team. So it's going to be interesting to see who they play because against the Giants defense or even the football team's defense, the Buccaneers offense can struggle. So they're hoping the Cowboys win the division. That way they have a little bit of an easier time moving the ball offensively. And then moving to the middle game on Saturday. And I didn't watch a single down for this, not because it was only available on Amazon Prime. I was just doing some other things. But when I checked the score, I was like, it has to be like the fourth quarter right now. And it said final. And I saw 49ers 20, Cardinals 12. And I was like, whoa, that was weird. But you know what
Yeah.
they say, Joe? Kyler Murray just can't win those big games. I still can't get over that Kyler Murray is not getting the Lamar slander that he should be getting and Lamar shouldn't be getting. But that's a whole different conversation. But 49ers come up big. I believe CJ Beathard was the quarterback, which I think he should have been the quarterback instead of Nick Mullins for a handful of these games. But 49ers win 20-12. George Kittle did come back, have a decent game himself as well. So hopefully he can stay healthy in week 17 for a healthy offseason. But Joe, man, the Cardinals no longer control their destiny, which is huge because week 17, they have a win or go home matchup against the LA Rams, who also are in a very similar win and go home matchup as well, except they can lose and get a little bit of help. But what were your takeaways from this NFC West, excuse me, battle in Arizona?
Yeah, I mean, those divisional games are always just so tricky. I mean, we've seen, the 49ers
Mm-hmm.
defense do this to a couple of teams in their division that, have been hot, like the Cardinals, like the Rams, and like the Seahawks, just kind of slow them down significantly more than, any other team outside of their division have been able to. So this was always a possibility going into this game. Um, I did not expect them to hold them to 12 points like this. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
DeAndre Hopkins, where are you at? Like the rest of these guys, Kenyon Drake, Chase Edmonds, Christian Kirk, Larry Fitzgerald. These are guys who were making plays all year. Christian Kirk really disappeared. I mean, he had like a
Yeah.
stretch for a couple games where he was lighting it up. And he seems to have just been taken out of the game plan so easily by so many defensive coordinators over the last few weeks. It's definitely a concern for Arizona there. And then, on the flip side with the offensive or with the 49ers, their offense was able to move the ball and put up 20 points against a respectable Arizona defense, with CJ Beathard. I believe Jeff Wilson ran for over
Mm-hmm. Bless you.
Jeff Wilson, gosh, of all people, ran for
You're
over
allergic to
100
Jeff
yards.
Wilson.
Evidently, for 100 yards, touchdown. It was, just a very well coached and well executed game plan by Kyle Shanahan. And to me, it just, when I look at a team like the 49ers, who are hands down the most injured team of
Mhm.
2020, and they're right now 6-9, they are still fighting. They're they're well coached. Their players are executing, the plays that are called for them. it's a very interesting contrast to what Philadelphia is dealing with right now. That's kind of my 2 cents there at the 49ers. I'm really impressed with what I'm seeing out of Kyle Shanahan and Robert Saleh for a down year for them. That D coordinator Saleh should definitely get some head coaching consideration, and I think he will be. So, it's going to be tough for Arizona now going into this last game. It'll be really interesting to see how things shake out. But, after starting out so hot, having some of that MVP buzz and, Super Bowl caliber run, the Cardinals just have fallen off a cliff. It's crazy.
Yeah, that definitely crazy. But I believe if they win, they go 9-7, which you would nail right on the spot, and they would probably be the 7th seed in the NFC. So
Yes.
your preseason prediction could happen. And now the night game was a very entertaining ending. And as a Ravens fan, thank God some things went our way on Sunday, because if the Ravens woke up Monday morning still out of the playoff race, we would all be upset because the Las Vegas Raiders blew it against the Miami Dolphins. Dolphins win 26-25. Tua got benched again, like they did in the Denver game about a month ago, to bring in Ryan Fitzpatrick, because Ryan Fitzpatrick has been here before. He's won some games. He did come back. The Raiders went up. They missed the extra point. Dolphins then the Raiders get the ball back. Then they have the ball like 1st and goal, 2nd and goal. Josh Jacobs slides on the 1-yard line to run out the clock. The Raiders only go up then 2 points after kicking a field goal, because they missed the extra point, gave the Dolphins about 30, 40 seconds to get into field goal range. Fitzmagic comes in, gets face masked, literally can't see, throws it up. Guy is wide open. And the Raiders fired their defensive coordinator. New guy, no difference. Just wide open. I don't get it. And then the Dolphins win 26-25. But the big takeaway from this one is, Joe, is Ryan Fitzpatrick. Again, this is the second time that this has happened. And this is kind of what I was saying when they originally benched him for two, like week 6, week 7, whenever their bye was that Ryan Fitzpatrick, they were 3-3, 4-2, and Ryan Fitzpatrick was playing good football. And I'm not saying that they would be 12-4, 13-3 battling for the division, but I mean, this can't be good for a young quarterback to be benched twice because the other guy is a veteran who has been here before and has won these games. Like that's just, I don't get it. But
Yeah.
that's a big takeaway for me. What about yourself in this game overall?
No, I'm right there with you. I mean, it's such a weird situation. I think that's, kind of been the theme when we've brought this topic up. I mean, it just doesn't make any sense to me. I mean, pick a guy and ride with him, give him the reins, and let him know that this is his team and not have to be watching over his shoulder, every minute. I mean, trust me, as a Philly fan, QB controversy is, it's second nature at this point. So it just doesn't make any sense to me for the Dolphins in this position where they didn't really have to put Tua in, but they chose to, and then they pull him, and then they put him back in, then they pull him again. Like, what is the goal here? What is the plan?
Mm-hmm.
Are you trying to develop Tua for like long term, or are you trying to? Do you think that Tua gives you the best chance to win in the short term? Because that's not what your actions are telling me when you keep pulling him for Ryan Fitzpatrick, and he comes out and finds a way to win. Or I think in the first one, almost found a way to win against
Right.
Denver, if I remember correctly.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, it's they just have to figure out what message it is that they're sending to first and foremost the players and the team. Are we all in on this year, or are we looking ahead to the future already? But then also the fans, because the fans deserve to know that. And they got to figure it out soon. Week 17 is here. They got lucky against a Raiders team that has not been, looking as good over the last few weeks. It's if it's a situation like that against, a Kansas City or Buffalo, it's not going to be the same. You're not going to be able to get lucky and get a win there in the playoffs against one of those teams. If Tua's struggle in the first half, you plug Fitzpatrick in, and he doesn't do enough, and they lose, then that's something that you're looking back on for a very long time as to what could have been if they started Fitzpatrick the whole game. So it just is going to create so many questions and controversy going into next year. But I believe Fitzpatrick is a free agent, so that'll also be an interesting situation to monitor. Do they keep him? But then what does that say about Tua? Do they ride with Tua? Do they trade Tua? Like, so many weird kind of things to think about. And I think right now the Dolphins do own the number 5 overall pick in the draft from the Houston Texans. So if they did want to go the quarterback route, they have the draft pick potentially as well as the draft capital if they need to move up, plus potentially trading Tua. So I really do not know. It's just such a weird
Mhm.
situation to monitor. And again, going into the playoffs now, they got to get it figured out. So, we'll see. We'll see who they go with week 17. If it's Fitzpatrick, that might, indicate that that's who they're riding with the rest of the postseason. Which I think right now, from what it looks like on the little sample sizes that we have for both of them, it looks like he gives them the best chance to win now. So that's who I would go with if you're all in on this season.
Absolutely. And he's definitely going to be the hottest free agent quarterback if he is in terms of backups for teams like not only the Dolphins, with the Steelers, maybe even like the Bill. Like, I don't know who the Bills' backup quarterback is. So he's,
Oh man, I saw something today on an Eagles site, and someone was like, "Well, if we let Wentz go, it'd be great to bring in a veteran backup like Ryan Fitzpatrick with Hurts." And I'm like, "So we want to have even more QB controversy, is
right.
what you're telling me? Because Fitzpatrick is probably better than Jalen Hurts right now." So, God Almighty.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see where he goes or what the Dolphins do for not only Week 17, but in the offseason as well. But the positive from this, and especially after some results on Sunday, is that had the Dolphins had lost, the Cleveland Browns would have clinched a playoff spot. Now that there's still a possibility for the Cleveland Browns to Cleveland Browns and not make the playoffs again. So let's hop into the Sunday games. The first one, the Bears beating the Jags 41-17. Bears now control their own destiny for the playoffs. All they have to do, though, is beat Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers in Week 17. Should the Packers play everybody for the entire game, which will be hard to do. I believe it's in Green Bay as well, so even a tougher place in Lambeau Field, even without any fans. But the Jags are 1-14, Joe. I said they're going to go 1-15. They won Week 1. They've been testing the waters each and every week, so we'll see if they can do it again on Sunday. But that's all I got. Bears are really clicking. And like I said last week, when the Ravens dominate the Jaguars and these teams, like, this is exactly what you need to do when you play a team like the Jaguars. I don't care if it's Mitch Trubisky, Nick Foles, Taysom Hill, you have to beat the Jaguars by 25, 30 points. And that's exactly what the Bears did. And they're clicking at the right time. And we'll see if they can make the playoffs and maybe get an upset or two in the playoffs. What were your takeaways from this Bears dominance?
Yeah, like you said, I mean, they're clicking right now. They're firing on all cylinders. Mitch Trubisky is playing really good football. David Montgomery continues to, be a really good workhorse running back. And the defense is playing really well too. So, like you said, it's a Jacksonville team that has one win. They're not a good football team. And, for a team with playoff aspirations right now, like the Bears, that's what they need. They need to, kind of have their foot on the gas, put their foot on the Jags next, because they cannot let up and have, like it's 20-3 or 20-0 at half, and then Jags come back and sneak a win out at the end, and now the Bears are out of the playoffs. I mean, they can't have that happen, and they didn't let that happen. So props to them for executing and doing what they need to do out there, and just really dominating this Jacksonville team. So it'll be really interesting to see how next week's game goes in Green Bay. If the Bears are able to, kind of pull this one out and make it happen, would that be a 4-game winning streak to end the season?
I believe that sounds about right. So basically, winning all of December, and obviously January is this weekend. But that's good news for the Bears too, especially. I mean, I believe this is the year where they have to make that decision on Mitch Trubisky to pick up that fifth-year option or whatever. So if he can lead them to the playoffs, maybe they do have the quarterback in Chicago and they aren't trying to find a Fitzpatrick or maybe in the draft again. So it's going to be a big game for the Bears. And a throwaway game in this one. The Bengals beat the Texans 37-31, Joe. And I mean, I didn't predict this. We all picked the Texans. This puts our records both at 4-2. But my big takeaway is with the JJ Watt post game. He basically called out his team, being like, "Yo, like, you got to show up to these games." And as a Ravens fan, we play the Bengals in Week 17, and Bengals are playing good football right now, but the fact that the Texans still put up 31 points makes me feel a little bit better. If the Bengals had won 37-0, I'd be like, this game's going to be a little bit tougher. This defense is really clicking, but both teams are moving the ball really well. And this is only good news again for the Bengals. And I believe Joe Burrow posted a video over the weekend as well of him walking after surgery. So Bengals are going to be a pretty decent team with Joe Burrow if they get a couple more pieces. But again, the big takeaway is the Texans, I guess, are giving up. I mean, right, Joe? Like, what were your thoughts from that?
Yeah, no, I'm right there with you. I mean, JJ Watt's post game presser really said it all. I didn't watch any of the highlights of this game. So I didn't see how it went. I think Jesse Bates had another interception. He's been
Oh, good.
having just a phenomenal year as a young safety. But it's unreal. I didn't expect to see the Bengals come out and win this game. Like JJ Watt said in the post game presser, I mean, you got to have some pride. Understand that, playing this game is a privilege. I mean, a guy like JJ Watt, that's who I want on my
Mhm.
team, 10 times out of 10, who I want to go to battle with. And it's not fair to him to bring that kind of effort, surround him with, these kind of players. I just hope for the best for, JJ Watt, Deshaun Watson, that those guys can either, you know, find some success there in Houston, find a GM and head coach that can get them some talent and good coaching. Otherwise, I really hope they can get out of there and find a way to find some success somewhere else because they really deserve it. But yeah, Bengals, great game. You know, I would love to see the Bengals win again next week and the Eagles to
Nope.
lose, and then we'd go
Ah,
up
no, no,
even
no,
more
no, no,
draft
no, no, no,
spots.
no.
So,
No
I'm
Bengals
sorry,
winning it.
Tim,
No,
but
no, no, no.
love to see it. I'd love to see it. But I'd hate it for you, buddy. I'd hate it for you.
Hey, well, the next team that we are talking about is right there with you guys at around 4, 5, 6, 7 in the Atlanta Falcons. So they can lose in week 17. But
That
the
works.
Falcons go into Kansas City, Joe, and Young Wei Koo missed a pretty easy field goal. Looked like the wind did take it. I don't know if you saw the highlight, but that ball went zoom. But the Falcons lose to the Chiefs 17-14. Chiefs solidified the number one seed in the AFC for not the second year. The Ravens did it last year. But my big takeaway from this is, and I alluded to it when we talked about this game, the Chiefs at home are a much different team. They lost to the Raiders at home. They almost lost to the Panthers at home if Joey Slye made that 65-yard field goal. Almost went to overtime to the Falcons at home. The Broncos on Sunday Night Football a couple of weeks ago, played all four quarters with them. And I mean, even last year in the playoffs, Texans go up big, Titans went up big. So like, I don't know what it is, but the Chiefs are struggling a little bit at home. Like this is not the same Chiefs team that we're used to seeing playing at home that on the road. So that's my big takeaway. And having the number one seed, you have two home games. So if they get a hot team, and people have been saying this, the Magic's going to run out. They're not going to come back and win after going down 21-0 every single time. Like that, there's going to be a couple of times where they're not going to. That's not going to happen. So that's my big takeaway. But hey, Chiefs lock up the number one seed. They can rest some people on Sunday. I saw earlier that Chad Henne will be getting the start. Shout out to Chad Henne resting up Patrick Mahomes. We'll see if that pays off in a handful of weeks when they play. But Joe, your thoughts from this Chiefs Falcons game?
Yeah, I also kind of had the same thought that I'm just so confused and surprised with the Chiefs
Mhm.
having this close of a game with the Falcons, a game where they very well could have lost it there at the end. To me, it speaks to Andy Reid's sneakiness. I
Mhm.
I think that what the Chiefs are doing right now, like, because I mean who'd they play last week? I feel like it was a close game or not a really crazy game last week.
They played. Didn't they play the Saints last week? Was that when they played the Saints?
They did, yeah. It was the Saints, but it was like a relatively low scoring game for them.
Mhm.
It was like 24, something like that. Um, so I feel like these last few weeks of the season, Andy Reid is just like, okay, like we've still got Patrick Mahomes, we've still got these guys. Clyde Edwards-Helaire is out for the rest of the regular season, but that's fine. We're gonna run basically the same offense that we've been running. That's already on film that everybody knows about. We're not going to throw any more new wrinkles in here because we don't need to. We're going to win these games without that. We're going to lock up the number one seed. We're going to rest our guys. We're going to get that first round bye. And then when whoever we play rolls around, then that's when we bring out these new wrinkles that are not on film that we've been working on for the second half of the season, and that we're saving for, someone in the playoffs. That's kind of my thinking there, because, it doesn't make sense to me why a team like the Chiefs would only score 17 points against the Falcons unless they're running a very basic offense and a very vanilla scheme that's already been on film, and they're just kind of executing it. I mean, if the defense can cover that and essentially knows what's coming, it's just a matter of, can my guy beat your guy, and, us execute it well, rather than finding somebody wide open or these crazy design plays. So I have a feeling that Andy Reid has those up his sleeve. He has something cooking. And when we see the Chiefs in the after the first round bye of the playoffs, we'll see a little bit more of the explosive Kansas City offense that we're used to.
Yeah, absolutely. You also got to give credit to the Falcons defense too. Raheem Morris is a defensive guy, so maybe he had a great game plan too, to stop or get a couple of turnovers here or there. And now, laughing stock of the day, Joe, the New York Jets do it again. They beat the Cleveland Browns 23-16. Baker Mayfield had two big fumbles in his own territory on fourth down to end the game, or at least he fumbled and they couldn't advance the ball. And then the drive before. So the Jets win 23-16. The Browns still win and in, but there is a couple of possibilities where if the Steelers do beat the Browns and a couple other teams win, the Browns go 10-6 and don't make the playoffs, which would be funny. But the Jets are playing some pretty good football right now. And I don't know if it's Adam Gase play calling again. I don't know if it's the team finally clicking. I don't know if it's just every individual player being like, yo, if I get this extra sack or if I get this extra pick, that's an extra $500K in my bank account for my bonus. So, are the Browns going to miss the playoffs, Joe? That's a big question from this game, because they're not playing some good football the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, I think they are going to Browns it. I think that, this game right there is just kind of like, they are still the Cleveland Browns. Like, if it smells like shit, if it looks like shit,
well, also, Joe, they
probably
had
the Cleveland Browns.
they basically had all of their wide receivers on the COVID list except for Austin Hooper, so they were playing with a bunch of no names. But they threw 53 times. You have Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. Like, that is the most Cleveland Browns play calling I've ever seen.
Exactly.
Joe, if you had no wide receivers or no tight ends and two of the best running back, one of the best 1-2 punches running in the NFL, would you say we're going to throw 50 times today?
I would not personally say that, Tim, but I do not run the Cleveland Browns. And it's crazy because I like Kevin Stefanski. I just feel like everyone who goes to Cleveland, like, they start to, like, seep. It's in the air, like, it seeps into them. Like, it's time to Cleveland. Like, he's had almost a whole season now. At the beginning they were looking good. We're like, oh, this is different. But now Cleveland has seeped into him, and I think it's starting to get him. I mean, the way that these last few weeks have gone for the Browns, it looks like they don't deserve to be that seventh team versus, when we're between the Ravens, the Colts, and the Dolphins. I mean, I would say those three teams are head and shoulders above the Browns right now. And I definitely don't want to see the Browns in the playoffs over any of those three teams, especially after they just lost to the freaking New York Jets. So, definitely discouraging there. Great job, Jets. You guys confirmed you will not be getting Trevor Lawrence. So, I don't know what you talk yourself into as a Jets fan now. It's like, okay, like, we'll take the second quarterback, or like, because now it's like, is Justin Fields or Zach Wilson, that much better than Sam Darnold right now with the rest of this roster? I mean, there's no receivers, no run game, no O-line, outside of their stud rookie that they drafted this past year. I mean, if I'm the Jets, like, maybe I'm just like, okay, let me draft the best tackle in this league, or in this draft, Sewell, and just have some bookends for Sam Darnold, and then start loading up in the second and third round again on, receiver, running back. Kind of, you got to give Darnold some help here. And it's not going to matter if you bring in a rookie like Justin Fields or Zach Wilson. If this is the roster that they're playing with, there's not going to be success. So, it's just such a such a tough situation for the Jets to be in. They could be like, oh, we'll start over with Trevor Lawrence, build around him, we'll be fine. Nope. Now you got to figure this out. So it's classic Jets, classic Cleveland. I'm here for it. I love to see it.
Yeah, my one of my friends is a Jets fan, and after watching BYU's bowl game where Zach Wilson had like 5 touchdowns or whatever, he claimed the name Mormon Mahomes for him. So we'll
Ooh.
see if they do go that way. But because the Browns lost the next game, the Ravens beating the Giants, we now control our playoff destiny. All we need to do is win in Week 17, and the Ravens are at least going to be the 5 or the 6 seed in the AFC. We beat the Giants 27-13, like I said. Very dominant first half. I think we were up 20-3 or 20-6 at halftime. They got a garbage time touchdown. We added on another touchdown in the second half where I think, based on what I saw, it seemed like we were just kind of coasting. We were there to score. We fumbled on the 3, so it's not like we weren't moving the ball, but we definitely, played it cool and just said, hey, like, let's get out of this game healthy. Let's move on to Week 17 where it's win and in. But the Giants, they still have a chance for the playoffs. That's my takeaway from it. All we need to do is win. That's exactly what we needed to do. Lamar's really clicking with Des Bryant, back-to-back games with the touchdown, which is something that we definitely like to see. Mark Ingram was a healthy scratch, so we're finally understanding, like, hey, it's J.K. Dobbins and Gus the Bus Edwards, although Gus did fumble on the 3. But beside the point, we're doing really well. We're moving the ball, and yes, we have been playing the Browns and the Jaguars and the Giants, and we get the Bengals this week. But hey, when you start clicking like this, you get that momentum. So when we do play Tennessee, Pittsburgh, Buffalo, Indianapolis in the first round of the playoffs, we still have that momentum. And it's like, hey, like kind of like last year that we saw, nobody's going to stop us. So hopefully we do have that mentality after we win in Week 17. But what were your thoughts from this Ravens-Giants game, Joe? Any at all?
Not really. I mean, like I said, I didn't see much of this game either. When I get out there to the listeners, I didn't see much football at all this weekend. Traveling up to Maryland. But just seeing the stat lines and everything. I mean, it was a dominant performance by the Ravens overall, and like you said, just kind of some garbage time points by the Giants. It's how we expected this game to go. And the Ravens took care of business, so that's what they have to do. And like you said, they're rolling in December. It is some weak teams, but they don't make their schedule. Control what you can control. Beat the teams that you're supposed to beat. Go into December on a hot streak, and I'm liking what I'm seeing from the Ravens offense. Finally starting to get into a little bit more of a groove. Like you said, I mean, it's huge to see that connection with Des Bryant and that run game really starting to take off. And I mean, this is what you need going into the playoffs. So, that's really all I got on that one.
Yeah, absolutely. And Joe, and now the next game, and after the Browns lost, I really wish that the Colts maintain their lead. But there is a brief time Sunday afternoon where I was rooting for both the Steelers and the Jets for the Steelers to come back, which they did, winning 20-24, but also the Jets maintaining the lead because the Browns did come back. And now after the fact, I wish the Colts had won. But Steelers win 28-24. Colts were up 24-7 at half. Steelers scored 3 touchdowns in the second half. Apparently, I was reading that Ben Roethlisberger kind of took over the play calling, or he started, kind of doing his own thing. So we'll see what happens in Week 17. They're starting Mason Rudolph, so they're not playing too much for the 2 seed. But it looks like I would imagine they do a little bit of scoreboard watching in case the Dolphins do work on the Bills. But hopefully, if the Steelers are the 3 seed, Dolphins beat the Bills, Ravens win, we got a third date this year. But Steelers win 28-24. Colts now are out of the playoff picture. A report came right before you were recording that you told me that Philip Rivers said that this pretty good chance this might be his last game if the Colts do not make the playoffs. But what were your thoughts from the Steelers comeback against the Colts?
Yeah, I mean, what a letdown by Indianapolis. I mean, you're up 3 touchdowns. You've got a good run game going with Jonathan Taylor, and Philip Rivers has been doing a good job moving the football and taking care of the ball. And your defense has only allowed 3 points in the first half. I mean, I get it. The defense allowed, 21 or what was the final score? It was 28 or
28-24.
28-24. Yeah, I mean, you allow that many points in the second half. You never want to see that, and you can't really have that happen when you're a top defense like the Colts. but you also expect your offense to be able to put up some more points in the second half after being up by 3 touchdowns. So, just kind of a total meltdown there by Indianapolis. Um, it's tough because this is Philip Rivers, kind of last chance to ride off into the sunset. Um, I would have really liked to see it from him because I think he's a guy who's been very slept on and kind of underrated throughout his career, even though he's got a lot of great stats. He just doesn't have those big wins. And this is going to go down as another one of those games where this is a must-win game for Indianapolis, and he didn't come through in the second half. It's tough. It's kind of how Philip Rivers is always going to be remembered. Statistically great QB, but never showed up in the big games when it really mattered, and could never get to that big one in the Super Bowl. So it's tough to see. I was hoping to see the Colts make some noise in the playoffs this year. They're a fun team to root for.
Same. And good news is in week 17, they play the Jaguars. Bad news, that's the one Jaguars win all the way back in week 1 was the Colts. But this is in Indianapolis, so they do have a little bit of home cooking. And now going on to Philip Rivers' old team in a game that I really wanted to just be an absolute shootout. It was not. The Chargers win 19-16 over the Denver Broncos. Didn't even care for this game at all. I chose the Broncos. They didn't live up to the expectations. You went with the Chargers. That puts us both at 7-4 on the week. But I mean, I don't have any thoughts from this game, Joe. How about yourself?
Huge win from the Chargers. Win again next week. That would be awesome. They play the Chiefs next week with Chad Henne and a bunch of backups. So I think it's a real possibility the Chargers win next week. Eagles lose and get us down to like number 4, number 5. I'll be pretty happy with that. If the Bengals somehow manage to win,
No.
and everything, we could get all the way up to number 3 potentially,
Woo!
which would be very nice. Draft another quarterback, of course. So
QB factory.
Exactly. So that's all I got on the Chargers. I wanted to see them win. And perhaps Justin Herbert, breaking the record for most touchdown passes by a rookie. Broke Baker Mayfield's record, who now in hindsight doesn't look like someone I'm really that impressed that he broke. But I think Baker Mayfield broke Peyton Manning's record or Cam Newton's or someone like that. So it's still a major accomplishment, and he's still got a game to go. So props to Justin Herbert having a great rookie season, finding a way to win, a couple of these games, as a rookie and, with not a lot of help around you. I really hope that whoever their new head coach is really finds a way to maximize Justin Herbert and his talent.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the next game, Joe, is you got some more help with the Eagles draft stock as the Carolina Panthers get their 5th win on the road on the Washington football team. Riverboat Ron can't get his revenge, but that's because Dwayne Haskins was his quarterback for most of the game. Then they brought him Taylor Heineke, however you pronounce his name. Panthers win 20-13. Dwayne Haskins got waived and released by the Washington football team. He cleared waivers, so he is now a free agent, but he doesn't have an agent. They also mutually parted ways, but I think that is a very big step for the football team organization because that was Dan Snyder's pick. A lot of the scouts within the department had a 3rd-round grade on Dwayne Haskins. Dan Snyder stepped in, took him at 15 overall. And that's a big step for him and the organization and the culture to say, hey, like, this is a bad egg. Dan, I know this was your guy, but we got to let him go. So that's my big takeaway from this. And we'll see. We got somehow in this 2020 season, the last game of the year is still a freaking NFC East winner, for the division. I can't believe that there's not one other game that is a winner take all in the division. So we have to watch the football team and the Eagles on Sunday Night Football. But that's my big takeaway. Football team still.
That's the Sunday night game?
That is the Sunday night game.
The Eagles and the football team is Sunday Night Football?
Yep.
What? Why? If anything, that's terrible. Like, I hate that. They should have made that like the like a 1:00 game, and then the Giants and Cowboys, the 4:00 game. Because if we somehow beat Washington, then it would come down to the Giants and Cowboys head to head. Winner goes to the division. It's not like if we win, we go to the playoffs. Like, I don't get that. I don't like that.
Yeah, I mean, but then again, like if in your scenario, if you do beat the football team, then Sunday Night Football is just whatever. It's Cowboys, Giants.
Exactly.
But I mean, it's whatever. Any thoughts from the Panthers winning?
I picked the Panthers to win this
You
game,
did.
and that was one of my main reasons. Like, this whole Dwayne Haskins, drama and just distraction, just kind of an implosion, kind of all around. It does not shock me one bit that they lost this game, and this was why. I mean, their offense could not move the ball at all, continually set themselves or set their defense up with poor field position. Um, and the Carolina was able to capitalize. I think it was like 20-6 at one point in this game.
Uh-huh.
It was just never close. I mean, you knew going into it, like at least in my mind. I mean, no Terry McLaurin, no Alex Smith likely. It's Dwayne Haskins and gosh, I always forget the running back's name. Antonio
Antonio
Gibson.
Gibson. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I mean, it was just going to be the two of them pretty much, and that's not a formula for success. So unless that defense was able to make enough game-changing plays, there was no way they were going to win, at least in my mind. And that's what happened. So it's unfortunate that pretty much everything I predicted came to fruition, except for the game that we'll get to soon.
Oh yeah.
So well, it's fortunate. It's fortunate and unfortunate. So whatever.
And you said it, and soon is now, Joe. Let's move on to your Philadelphia Eagles. Good news, you can't make the playoffs, so you're guaranteed a top 10 pick. Bad news, you lost to your longtime rival, the Dallas Cowboys, by 20 points. 37-17, Joe. You'll have the floor. What were your thoughts from this game? I mean, I know you said that you're playing for the draft now, but I mean, it's not a good feeling losing to the Cowboys by 20.
No, it's not. And I mean, the way this game started, like I was just so pumped. I was like, this looks great. I mean, Deshaun Jackson is back, like 81-yard bomb. Jalen Hurts was making some throws over the middle. He was using his legs well. The run game with Miles Sanders was looking all right. And then from then on, the first quarter, we couldn't do anything. I mean, the biggest I think difference in the game was when Fletcher Cox left. Once he exited the game with a stinger, they were running the ball. There was no pass rush, and then they figured out, hey, like Darius Slay is pretty good. We're not going to throw to him. So let's target this other corner. What's his name? Michael Jaquette. Okay, like sounds good. He's the Eagles' sixth string. We've got three pretty good wide receivers. If they've got one good corner and one terrible corner, we're going to be able to exploit a matchup here. And that's what they just did. I mean, tried to cover him or cover Gallup, couldn't do that. Went to Amari, put him on his ass. Like CD Lamb shook Nickel Roby Coleman for like a 50-yard touchdown in the second half on a wheel route. I mean, it was just bad. I mean, and it's kind of what we, knew it was going to be in terms of the defensive side. The whole secondary is in shambles. Fletcher Cox went out. I knew that the defense was going to allow points, and it was going to be just like that. But I didn't expect the offense to look this bad. I mean, and I didn't hate the play designs or the play calls. Like Doug Peterson's play calls in this game, they were good calls. They were open mans. Open receivers, good routes run. That Hurts was, he missed a few passes. He tried to force a few, when he was pressing late and ended up turning the ball over a couple of times. It's just not great execution. But when you look at that offensive line that's there as well, like my God, like Jalen Hurts is running for his life immediately. I get it. It's hard to look past your first read when the walls are coming down all around. Pass rushers are coming in left and right. Your first read's not there. Okay, I get it. Like you're jumpy, you take off, you move around. Now you missed a read. So I mean, it's issues like this are what were so damaging to Wentz. And we don't want Jalen Hurts developing bad habits like that. That are going to set him up poorly in the future. I don't think the O-line's ever going to be this bad again because, this amount of injuries is, there has to be some sort of positive regression, like there's no way it could be this bad. It could be bad, but it won't be this bad again. So it's just tough. Like, it's just such a weird situation, a weird way for us to lose because I was expecting us for, if anything, the offense to be able to move the ball, score some points, make it a close game. But we didn't do anything after that first quarter. It just seemed like another meh kind of game from the Eagles, pretty much overall. So it was disappointing for sure. And all it really does is just further muddy the water about the quarterback situation. This was not a good game by Jalen Hurts. It was a very similar game to kind of what we've seen from Carson Wentz in terms of turning the ball over and not being able to kind of get out of your own way. But I mean, he also he was able to move the ball though more throughout the game, and we scored touchdowns on our first 2 drives. That's something I haven't seen in a very long time. You just obviously want to see that consistency throughout the game. Like I said, it just further muddies the water about the quarterback situation. Like, is it Doug Peterson? Is it Carson Wentz? Is Jalen Hurts not that good? Is it the offensive line? Is it the lack of receivers? Do we now draft a quarterback in the first round because now we're not sold on Jalen Hurts? Like, I really don't know. So another one last game to evaluate Jalen Hurts a little bit more. They've got to figure that out, and it's definitely going to be an option on the table for this Philadelphia Eagles regime to draft a quarterback. They made it clear last year that they value that position very highly, and they're always going to be assessing that position and considering adding to that QB room and upgrading it if they can. So it's definitely going to be an option on the table no matter what for this team moving forward. They're definitely going to be evaluating that QB position, and going to have to figure out if there's a guy that they like more than Jalen Hurts or Carson Wentz that they would take. It's such a weird, like, confusing and frustrating situation that the Eagles have put themselves in. And again, they have nobody to blame but themselves. This was all predictable. There's none of this is hindsight. This is all, we knew DK Metcalf would be better than JJ Arcega-Whiteside. We knew that Justin Jefferson would be better than Jalen Reagor. We knew that a second round pick on a quarterback like Jalen Hurts would not be helpful for Carson Wentz and adding, more talent to this team that desperately needs it. It's just all terrible. I just don't even know what to say. I don't know how to feel. I don't know what I want. I just don't know, Tim. I just don't know. This offseason is going to be crazy. I think that the roster is going to be purged. I mean, it has to be for us to do anything. Like, you have to absolutely purge this roster of all the big contracts and renegotiate contracts with people that you currently have to make maybe one decent free agent signing this offseason. There's going to be so many changes, I think, and there has to be. So that's my take. I don't know what I want. I don't know what's going to happen. We'll roll with it. I'm always the optimist, or usually the optimist. So, whatever they do, I'll convince myself it was the right move, and then, look at it in hindsight and be like, Joseph, you idiot.
Hey, well, good news is we'll be talking about it all off season long, and we will see what happens with the Eagles and all that stuff. As Joe is turning off his TV, we're going to move on to the next game. We have the Seattle Seahawks and the LA Rams, basically the battle for the NFC West. Seahawks win 20-9. Jared Goff gets injured. He will not be playing in Week 17. Had a minor thumb surgery, so hopefully, if they do win, he is ready for their playoff game. But Joe, again, like we've been saying for the last month or so, there's been no dominant NFC team. And we'll talk about the Packers in a second because they look like the team. But I would not come out of this positive as a Seahawks fan, other than we win and we're the division champs, because only scoring 20 points against this Rams team, and this is the likely wild card matchup, Rams at Seahawks again. So it's like, I just can't feel good, especially the way Russ was playing at the beginning of the year. One game having Lockett have 15 catches and 200 yards, and the next game DK Metcalf, and now it's just completely different. Now the Seahawks are just winning football games, but it's just ugly the way that they're winning. So, what was your takeaway, Joe, from the Seahawks beating the Rams by only 11 points?
Yeah, kind of right there with you. I mean, they're winning. It was an important game to win, but like you said, like they're winning ugly. And it's a divisional game, so I get it. I mean, these games are always weird. No matter who's the quarterback. We just saw CJ Beathard beat the Cardinals. So you never know. And I mean, this Rams defense does match up pretty well against the Seattle offense. Um, but like you said, Russ and this offense was cooking at the beginning of the year. They have not been at all. This is definitely a game where once Jared Goff goes out, and that's the other thing. This defense is still not good. I mean, yeah, you allowed 9 points, but where's the turnovers? Where's the big plays? Where's the big hits? Like, give me a Cam Chancellor like sitting someone down over the middle kind of play. Like, let me see that from Jamal Adams. Like, I think I saw a stat that Mike Williams, the receiver for the Chargers, has more interceptions this year than Jamal Adams.
Ooh.
Yeah, I didn't look it up, but I would imagine it was like one of those Hail Mary interceptions that Mike Williams got or something like that. But that's crazy. I mean, I get it. You bring in Jamal Adams, and he's a great safety. He can do a lot, especially like blitzing and against the run. But I mean, you got to generate some turnovers. You got to make some plays. I think Quandre Diggs did have a pick off of Goff in the red zone, which is pretty big in this game. I don't know if that was before or after Goff hurt his thumb. But I mean, this Seahawks team has got to figure out a way to play complementary football and come together and really just put that dominant performance together so that they can feel good about themselves going into the playoffs rather than just limping. And especially if you have to see a team like the Green Bay Packers who are going in hot.
Yeah, absolutely. Those are my big takeaways. So we'll see. I mean, and like I said with the Saints, the Seahawks could still be the number one seed if the Packers lose, the Saints lose, and they win in their matchup against the 49ers, which is now looking like a tough matchup as well in week 17. And now moving on to the team, the Packers. They beat the Titans 40-14 at home in a snow game in Lambeau Field. It just felt right, Joe, with the snow in Green Bay. Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams continuing their amazing chemistry and throwing a couple more touchdowns. Then in the second half, rookie running back A.J. Dillon had himself a couple of touchdowns and was running the ball really well. And as we saw when the Browns, blew out the Titans and then the Titans came back, they went up big. Packers went up big. Guess what happens when you go up big against the Titans? Derrick Henry is out of the game. You have Ryan Tannehill try to come back and win with his arm. And so that didn't happen. So now that the Titans put themselves in a position where they could miss the playoffs as well. But in terms of the Packers, they look like the dominant NFC team. And I know that they've played some close games, especially in the last month or two, but at least they're playing those close games and they're still putting up 30 points, kind of like the Chiefs. They're still winning games 30-27, 30-26, whereas the Seahawks, like we just talked about, they're winning games. They lost 17-12. They're winning 20-9. They're just not showing that dominance, but Packers are getting hot at the right time. All they have to do is beat the Bears to be the number one seed in the NFC. So that was my big takeaway is, Packers look great. Aaron Rodgers has taken over Patrick Mahomes as the favorite for the MVP. So that's all I have to say. Joe, what were your thoughts from this Sunday night football game?
Yeah, I mean, this was a huge win for the Packers, I think. I mean, this kind of game just screamed favorable matchups for the Titans all day.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a bad run defense with Green Bay. You have Derrick Henry for Tennessee, just on a hot streak right now. It's in the snow, like everything tells you this is going to be Titans running the ball, tractor Derrick Henry, just dominant performance, keep the ball away from Aaron Rodgers. But it was not like that. This has got to be so encouraging for Green Bay and so concerning for the Titans. Because, I mean, for Green Bay to be able to shut down the run like they did against one of the best rushing attacks in Tennessee in the snow. This is playoff football. Like this, it is cold, the elements, you're outside. And Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams, it was like there was no snow. They're just picking people apart throughout the game. I mean, Aaron Rodgers just dropping dimes left and right. I mean, he's been doing this for a while there in Green Bay. But again, like I really thought Derrick Henry would have a bigger game. Ryan Tannehill would, be able to kind of manage the game like he has been. Aaron Rodgers is a bad man. This Titans team has to be elated with how they played against a playoff caliber team like Tennessee. Again, the way they shut down the run in the snow when everything is telling you this Titans team is going to be able to run the ball down your throat. I mean, what a confidence boost. I mean, that's been their Achilles heel all year. And now to shut down one of the best running backs and rushing attacks and the week before, the end of the season in the snow, if they can shut down that run game, they can shut down anyone's run game. And that secondary is good. This is a defense that they're starting to figure it out. That is a game where that can drive you through the playoffs. That kind of momentum can really get you to the Super Bowl. And if the Packers face a team like the Chiefs in the Super Bowl, they might be able to keep up. They might be one of the teams that has the firepower to keep up with Kansas City and just go back-to-back points. I mean, I need the State Farm Bowl. Give me Aaron Rodgers with the discount double check and Patrick Mahomes with the Patrick Price, the Rodgers rate, give it all to me. I need that Super Bowl matchup. These two are the two MVP candidates. They're playing like two of the best players in the world right now. And I mean, again, what a win for Green Bay. And like you said, they look like if there is a dominant team in the NFC, it looks like it's them.
Yeah, and you just said it with Mahomes and Rodgers, and I believe the Titans did kind of make it, 10-7 or 13-10, and then 2-3 plays later, Aaron Rodgers to Devontae Adams for a touchdown. Then it's like, okay, then you go 3 and out. Then the Packers do it again. All of a sudden, you're looking at 24-10. Like, whoa. So that's exactly what the Packers and Aaron Rodgers and the Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes will do to you. And again, being that dominant team in the NFC, the Packers basically just said to the NFL or the NFC being like, hey, look, we know we haven't looked good. We know we lost some games. We know we struggled a little bit. But if you want to go to the Super Bowl, you're coming to our house. So that was a good message for them. And then another message was sent on Monday Night Football as the Buffalo Bills beat the New England Patriots 38-9. Again, Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs, an amazing connection. Eric DeCosta, when you're watching this, please get Lamar Jackson, a wide receiver like Stephon Diggs or DeAndre Hopkins, maybe Julio Jones, maybe Allen Robinson, just throwing out some names out there. But the Bills sent a message too saying like, hey, behind Patrick Mahomes, we're the second best team in the AFC, and we think we can give them a run for their money. I mean, they were just marching down the field. Defense looks great, and I feel bad for whoever that 7 seed is. Hopefully it's if the Browns do make the playoffs, hopefully it is the Browns. That way the Bills and Bears some wild card weekend. Yeah. But that was my big takeaway. I'm not saying the Patriots gave up, but man, it's a bad year for the Patriots, and hopefully that they can bounce back, especially with all their defensive opt-outs. And if they do draft a quarterback, they're also in the running. But Bills look great, man. I do not, as a Ravens fan, I don't want to run into the Bills wild card weekend or at any point in the playoffs.
Right. Yeah. No, like you said, I feel like if there's any team in the AFC that can, give the Chiefs a run for that Super Bowl spot, I think it's the Bills. Josh Allen has been, just looking so good this year, spreading the ball around, but, still feeding Stephon Diggs, and he has just been eating. I mean, my buddy went into Monday night up 40 in his fantasy game, and he went against Stephon Diggs.
Oh, no.
And Stephon got 42. And the same friend of mine from Maryland, Stephon Diggs, actually showed up at a party at his house back in high school, because Stephon Diggs from Montgomery County, Maryland, where we grew up. Showed up at his house, caused a scene, threw a pool ball, and put a hole in my buddy Sarab's wall. So Sarab has always hated Stephon Diggs since then. And then Stephon Diggs did this to him. Yeah, in his fantasy championship for $1,000. Yeah. Shout out my boy, Sarava Gugi. Jun, you're the man. So you hate to see it, but those are some bad men on that offensive side of the ball. Brian Dabble is he's coaching up some really great game plans. And, like you said, if you got to face the Bills in the wild card matchup, I feel bad for you. My God.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and they do have a game with the Dolphins on Sunday in Week 17. If they win, they solidify that number 2 seed. So it'd be interesting to see. I haven't seen any announcements yet of whether they're playing some people. I know the Steelers announced today that Mason Rudolph is playing, so they're probably losing to the Browns. We'll pick on Saturday. So we'll see what the Bills do, because this is still a very important game. If they somehow lose to the Dolphins and the Steelers manage to pull out a win, the Bills are now the 3 seed, and it's like I'd rather be the 2 seed and maybe playing the Browns or Colts than being a 3 seed and having a date with Lamar Jackson or back-to-back games against the Dolphins. So we'll really see what the Bills do going into this weekend. But Joe, this will wrap up Week 16 of the NFL season. We got one more week of picks going. We both went 10-6 this week, even though we went opposite on a handful of games. It balanced out. So we are in the running for the AFC playoffs along with the Dolphins, Ravens, Colts, and Browns. We'll see what happens in Week 17, guys. Tune in on Saturday for our picks. But Joe, any final thoughts about Week 16 playoff pushes, fantasy, draft season for you guys? Any final thoughts?
Draft season, baby. Send all those mock drafts my way. Love them, man. It feels like it's been a little bit since I've really locked in on the draft season, because the last few years the Eagles have snuck into the playoffs, or kind of been in that middle of the road, or number 21 draft pick overall. But now, with this top 10 pick, I'm a little more excited about. I'm gonna have to do a little bit more of my draft. So I'm looking forward to that. I always really enjoy the draft. I know the two of us always talk about it a lot. Enjoyed watching it together when we lived together. So I'm definitely looking forward to that. Yeah, just enjoy the Flea Flicker while it's still here, since we got one more week of predictions and recap, and then playoff predictions and recap, and then it's the Super Bowl, and then maybe we'll do a Flea Flicker draft episode or something like that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be fun, and hopefully Joe and I can get creative for the off season. So definitely just stay tuned. Make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, ring the bell to be notified, because we will hopefully not go months without talking about football. But we're very excited for the draft, very excited for Week 17, and I can't believe the football season's almost coming to an end. So everybody, we will see you on Saturday for our picks, and that's all I got. Come back on Saturday for our picks, and let's enjoy the last week of the regular season of football and get yourselves ready for the Philadelphia Eagles on Sunday Night Football. One more final time, everybody. Peace out. Have a good one.
Happy New Year.
And it's Happy New Year.
2020 is over, Tim. We're here. We can celebrate it.
Yeah, time to celebrate, everybody. Happy New Year. We'll see you in January. See you next year.